Hello and welcome to Rauta's Indie 5. This time once again we have 5 different releases from 5 different bands, and this time quite a variety in terms of bands and styles in question. First of all, we have one band from Finland playing kind of a hybrid metal. We have a band from Sweden doing death grind. We have United States based death metal band, more or less grindy as well. We have a French doom metal band, and we have a Greek black metal band. So we have variety, and let's go these in alphabetical order. Let's first try with Alienation, Sociopathology, a full-length album by this band that previously have been doing only EPs and such. This band has been in the making for quite a few years. They really haven't been pushing the gas pedal in terms of just forcing an album out, and now that they finally have an album, I still feel a little bit let down. Why so? Well, previously the couple of EPs I've heard from the band have been pretty interesting, somewhat decent in terms of creating their own way of extreme metal. And by extreme metal in this case, I mean combination of thrash metal, melodic death, black metal and stuff like that. Now, thrash elements are only as a seasoning here, and most of it is just focusing on more melodic metal, be it melodic death or melodic black. It's just kind of a combination of those things with a little bit of a lack of focus. While the vocals are very powerful and actually one of the better sides of this album, the guitar riffs and songwriting in general seems like a little bit off, as if the band was unable to just put their finger on what they are trying to do. And as such, I find this album a tad bit of a disappointment. Given the energy is good, production is okayish, but the songwriting could be a lot better. Now it seems like the band is dropping the ball instead of, scoring. And as such, I would say this is not as good as their previous EPs. They have the potential to be right there, but they need to focus a little bit more. For people who love hybrid metal, there is no reason why to skip this one, but I wouldn't expect good terms of quality. But it's worth a listen, I guess. Then we go to Sweden with a humorous band called Belarus, Beaver. This is a third album called Symphony of Fallen Trees. Never heard the debut album, but the second album was pretty okay. This one is better. 16 tracks throughout some 30 minutes and then some. So as you can pretty much imagine, the songs are short and sweet. This, even though with the I'm not gonna take it off because it's gonna just break. It's way too tight here. So the thing here is the songs are roughly 2 minutes long with those spoken samples from movies or whatever. And the style here is indeed death metal married in grind. And all the themes here are, once again, you can pretty much guess it, Beaver. So this is basically a Swedish version of Cannabis Corpse. Whereas Cannabis Corpse is doing death metal in the vein of Cannibal Corpse, but with the term like, talking about weed and stuff. These guys are talking about beavers. Every song is related to beavers one way or another. Now, musician-wise, this is pretty skilled. The production is really heavy and good. The growly vocals are deep and powerful. And the songs just, go between the kind of a mid-tempo death metal, really heavy guitaring, and those grindy parts. So it's kind of a death grind, but not grinding so much it's all the way down, just grind. Not so much it's pure death metal, but kind of marrying those two styles together nicely. Overall, this is pretty decent, quite of a nice album, but still missing some kind of a hit song material, if you know what I mean. So in terms of grind or death grind, they're a lot better bands, but Belarus Beaver is evolving, I might say. So in that sense, worth checking out. Then we go for United States with this band called Gargling. The Innards of a Charred, Cadaver. Sounds so brutal, sounds so violent. It's almost like, yeah, it's going to be this kind of a death metal brutal kind that I'm just falling in love with. Now, my initial spin with the MCD, which is less than 10 minutes, was like, what the hell is going on? Now, this is a typical solo project in so many ways. I mean, a lot of so-called bedroom black metal bands get shit for being the turds they sometimes are. That is, it's like having bad production, which in black metal is more forgettable and forgivable than in death metal, and having some problems with a lot of instruments because one guy is taking care of everything there. This is the equivalent to that as brutal death metal, or kind of a brutal death metal meeting grind. The thing here is, first thing that pops right up and just is fucking annoying is the snare sound. Instead of having powerful kind of a snapping sound, snare, doesn't matter whether we're talking to death metal or whatever. This sounds like as if someone is having a tennis ball and bouncing it right on a kind of a metallic, what the hell is the word? Kind of a metallic thing, not exactly a plate or a top of a pan, but something that is kind of like this, flexible layer of metal in a way. It sounds stupid and fucking annoying because it's on the top of instruments. Now the growly vocals are very deep but super monotone. They are less than kind of average growly vocals, subpar in those terms. And the guitar riffs, you really can't figure out what's going on really because the whole production is so mushy. It feels like it's just doing those palm muted dun 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 riffs, and then the song is already done with. Let me remind you, this is less than 10 minutes throughout about 8 tracks. So once you have it figured out, it's just palm muted riffs with deep monotone growly vocals, annoying snare sound, and there's not much of a songwriting to speak of. It's more like when you have those My First Sony kind of equipment for your kids with, those colorful mics and shit. This is like your kid's very first death metal album, and then you start appreciating the genre once you survive this. It is really that bad. It's not the worst I've ever heard, but among the worst anyway. Then we have one from France. This one is Nornes with the Treads MCD. This one is about 26 minutes. Second EP by the band. And this one is doom metal, with a little bit of doom death, if you will. And by doom death, I mean there are a little bit of growly vocals and some faster parts which create this layer of death metallicness to this mostly just doom metal kind of stuff. You have clean vocals which are passionate, maybe not that skilled, but passionate nonetheless. You have the kind of a melancholy doomy edge, which is pretty okay. Overall, this is something that traditional doom metal lovers might actually love if they just can go past those little bit growly vocals. Overall, decent, not great. Why not great? Because there are parts which don't really seem to fit here perfectly, and also because the overall feeling is more like solid, but not exactly convincing. Like, wow, these are some epic doom songs. They are not. Last but definitely not least comes from Greece. This is Winter Eternal, Land of Darkness, third album by this one-man band. Now, this is also one of those reasons those bedroom black metal bands can be laughed at because, well, in so many ways, this album sucks. No, I kid you not. This has a lot of potential, but in some elements, it's more like, why? First of all, this production sounds like as if 1995 called and wanted it back. It's more like you go to your rehearsal room and you set up all the instruments by yourselves and you don't really have the skill or equipment to make it good. So you just do whatever you had there. It's not raw, it's not violent, it's not primitive, it's just kind of a crappy. And it's much like this quality on the cover, more like, okay, this is your first Dungeons and Dragons module. I kind of get where you're going, but please next time have a budget for the cover image as well as the studio. Now when it comes to the actual songwriting, it's a lot better than what I might be giving you a little bit of hint of. This is melodic black metal in the vein of melodic black and death metal band coming from Sweden. Think about bands like Gates of Ishtar or Unanimated and the likes. Actually, there's a Gates of Ishtar cover track as the ending track here. And you know what to expect. It's not so close to bands like Dissection or Dark Funeral Mörgruning, which are, I guess, in so many ways kind of a cornerstone Swedish black metal style. This is more the kind of a death black or just melodic death metal in terms of those riffs. But you have those black metal elements, be it some of the riffs and those kind of a screamy, raspy vocals, which actually a little bit growliness in them. But even though it sounds kind of a crappy one-man band, it sounds kind of like first demo, there's something that strikes me in a way of, kind of how nostalgia takes me back to the 1990s. Had I found this back in the days, I probably would be like, wow, it's not super good, but there's something that I like. So at least the melodies are good. So if you don't mind, it's a little bit rehearsal room edition. At least it has the potential to be catchy with those melodies, and it's pretty nicely done. Overall, definitely a decent album, even with some minor flaws here and there. So given this pile of 5 different albums, which way to go? If I had to pick the best ones here, I would say Belarus Beaver for sounding heavy death metal, Winter Internal for being with the catchy melodies, and Nornes delivering the melancholy with doominess. For these other 2, especially Gargling, don't even click those links. But if you want to hear the music yourself and give them a listen, you will find links provided in the description box. Now my rant out, get some fresh air and listen to some good music. See you again with more reviews coming away.